But talking about Midcap IT, let's go across to Dipen. Dipen, hi, good morning, and what an opportune time you're having this investor forum, Midcap IT, and that clearly seems to be the flavor in the market today. Tell me, which are the companies participating in the investor forum?
So we have some 13 or 14 companies participating here, and let me make the statutory disclaimer. It's not just for today that we like Midcap IT. Let's be very sure of that. We've been looking at this space for a while now, and with more than a dozen companies participating today, what we aim to achieve is to be able to highlight some of the niche or non-linear businesses in Midcap IT for the benefit of institutional investors. So we have cloud companies, we have product companies, we have niche service provider companies, we have OPD companies, and we have bread and butter software services companies as well. And not all of them are IT companies. Many of these guys provide what we call new age business services, and there is a lot of embedded non-linearity in some of their business models. And that's some of the things we want to, that's the kind of stuff we want to figure out about them. And it's with that purpose that we've organized this conference. So you have a cloud company like 8K Miles, you have OPD companies like L&T Tech, you have bread and butter software services companies like Emphasis and L&T Infotech, which have got a reasonable amount of digital in the mix. You have manpower staffing companies like TeamLease, you have a niche visa processing and e-governance service provider like BLS. You have other niche companies like eClerk. So the list goes on and on. I mean, with more than a dozen companies, like I said, there's a little bit to interest everyone, and it's not just for today. We believe that the time has come now to look beyond just the large cap IT blokes as the IT world and the niche services world evolves over a period of time.
It's a plethora of companies and themes that you're focusing at the Investor Forum, Dipen. Like you just mentioned, there's digital, there's analytics, and cloud, which have come of age and are on high growth trajectory. Would you say that the trends for the sector are now changing, and times are changing, at least when it comes to these niche mid-cap IT names?
Yeah, so the big crib that people have been having on IT for a while, and it's been brought out in the numbers at the big daddies, the bellwethers like TCS or Infosys or even Wipro and some of the others for that matter, is that the bread and butter IT services bit is going nowhere, and we might see low single digit or mid single digit growth, whereas some of the guys here, even those who are in the bread and butter services business, people who are attending today are smaller companies. So an Emphasis or a Hexaware, for example, an L&T Infotech, for example, and these guys are certainly growing much faster than the rest of the system. Now, outside of the bread and butter software services, you have product companies, you have niche services companies, you have the OPD guys, you have the cloud guys. So the point is, and I repeat, that at a time when IT is going through some kind of an upheaval and a disruptive change, you actually have a lot of these smaller companies, relatively smaller companies. It's not that, so we have one or two companies here who are at kissing distance, if I may say so, of $1 billion revenue. But a lot of these mid-sized companies are doing innovative stuff, which is going to be disproportionately rewarded in the markets in the days to come. A product company like, let's say, Intellect Design, which some time ago people were saying might run out of cash, let us say, has been able to raise cash and through a rights issue, and is now sitting on a very fat potential order pipe, if I may say so. A company like Majesco, which drifted for a while, has got an insurance product which is now finding acceptance in the United States, and it's just around 1,000 crores market cap. And these are guys with clearly a non-linear model. And 8K Miles, which is a complete cloud company, and which is now exactly in the disruptive place where so it's tied up with an Amazon Web Services, for example, to offer cloud services to healthcare companies in the US. So all these guys are doing a whole lot of things which some of the larger companies have arguably missed out on doing, and that's why this event is interesting for a whole lot of investors who are visiting us today.
Dipen, Midcap IT may have their own niche, but somehow, with the exception of 8K Miles, I don't think there is a Midcap IT which can be a standout turf winner. 8K Mile is solidly placed in cloud and they do something exceptionally strong. But rest of the Midcap IT stocks, whether it's Persistent or Mindtree, they do a bit of this and a bit of that.
Right. Yes, so I think some of these guys have to figure out what they really want to do in life, and that's a fair crib, I would say. So, for example, KPIT has a business mix that can be sliced three ways. eClerx has a business mix that can be sliced two ways, and God knows that eClerx has gone through a growth challenge in the trailing few quarters. And I think some of these guys will have to pull those parts up by the saw, you know, by the bootstraps, which the parts that are not performing. Otherwise, they'll have to let go of those parts. But if you look at a company like Teamlease, and we've been thumping the table on Teamlease right when it was in 3 digits, and it's in the high 4 digits now, or 2000 plus, or where are you today? And the reason why Teamlease is at this kind of valuation multiple is not that current year's profits should get this kind of multiple, but the fact that the opportunity for them to grow, let's say in the manpower staffing business, which is where they specialize, to grow continuously for the next 5 or 10 years without consuming proportional capital is very high. The opportunity for 8K Miles to grow its cloud services without consuming corresponding capital. In fact, the opportunity for product companies like Intellect and Majesco to get non-linearity into their revenues and therefore into their profits is huge. It's immense, and it's a function of whether their products find acceptance. And these are some of the things we are going to figure out. For example, I don't like the way 8K Miles capitalizes a whole lot of product development expenses. So you find out these things when you organize an event like these. You dive deeper, you do a drill down with management, and that's the opportunity that is being presented to investors today.
Okay. So if you have to, let's say, point out 3 niche mid-cap IT companies, which one would you like to point out? I mean, which you think are the champions of their own domain?
So I don't know about shareholder returns here on, but if you look at just the quality of the business and the growth prospects that are visible, not even promised right now, then certainly Teamlease stands out. And it's not really an IT company, if you know what I mean, although they use a lot of IT in the background to enable some of the efficiencies and non-linearities in their business. And you might say, but Dipen, it's up 3x from where you might have once spoken about it, so why should we be buying now? So I'm not recommending a buy on Teamlease. We think it's frightfully costly right now, but look at the business, look at the quality of the business, and look at where it can go in 5 years or 10 years from now. And who knows, even today might be a cheap enough price to get in. I don't know, you might, so the call to buy or not is yours, but I think certainly on quality of business, a Teamlease, a bread and butter services company like L&T Infotech. Now you'll say that's the most unglamorous of the picks here, but I'm completely bullish about how they can sustainably grow from here on, given the digital in their mix and given what is going right. So you look at an Emphasis, for example, and post takeover by a private equity investor, and the cross-sell possibility in that investor's portfolio, and the HP channel degrowth bottoming out, as it were. I think even they're not too badly placed. So I can go on and talk about each of these companies and give you the specific reasons why they are well placed. But I would also like to sign off by saying that companies which have gone nowhere in the last 2 or 3 years also merit a look, because that's the reason why we want to call companies like this. You don't just look at the pretty boys in the pack. You also look at some of the, if I may say so, ugly ducklings who've gone nowhere for a while, but who actually hide a lot of talent in their boardrooms and in their software centers. So companies like eClerx and KPIT, we would certainly look out for whether the tide is turning there. And at a time when I think the bulk of the hardness in rupee, in the rupee dollar rate is behind us, and with the US clearly going, aggressive in terms of its own aspired economic growth, I think the dollar is in for a hard phase, and we should look at some of these neglected mid-cap companies, even if they could purely swing around just on the strength of the dollar, and if their businesses actually spring back to life over a period of time. So you have 13, 14 companies there, and I think over the next 7 or 8 hours we'll figure out the 4 or 5 alpha guys out of these.
Okay, and we'll chat again once you do have those top 5 names at your hand. But aside of Midcap IT, Dipen, tell me what's the chatter on the sidelines of the conference?
Surely,
is the market paying a lot of heed to Gujarat elections? And if the opinion polls are to be believed, and if it is not a thumping majority by the BJP government, would that be a market moving event?
So this part of the conversation certainly makes for more glamorous TRPs for your channel, but really we don't have an opinion on what happens in the polls. God knows that opinion polls are anything but indications of popular opinion, and we've seen plenty of opinion polls going right and wrong all over the place. It's even more difficult to predict elections than it is to predict stock markets. We think we have a fix on stock markets, and we'll stick to our expertise for now. We struggle with stock markets, and we don't want to face the prospect of going completely wrong on elections. Having said that, I think this is home turf for the ruling party, and it will take a really, really big swing to make a difference, but who knows? I have absolutely no clue, and I'm happy to let it go at that.
A diplomatic answer, Dipen. I would say that. But good to chat with you, and you have an excellent conference.
Thank you.